Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtavrayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, the material world as a great forest of enjoyment. Text number 27 onwards. So 27 translation. In this materialistic life, there are many difficulties I have just mentioned, and all of these are insurmountable. In addition, there are difficulties arising from so-called happiness, distress, attachment, hate, fear, false prestige, illusion, madness, lamentation, bewilderment, greed, envy, enmity, insult, hunger, thirst, tribulation, disease, birth, old age, and death. All these combine together to give the materialistic conditioned soul nothing but misery. With so many problems, how can we how can we be happy in this material world? There's no way possible. The conditioned soul has to accept all these conditions simply to enjoy sense gratification in this world. Although people declare themselves great scientists, economists, philosophers, politicians, and sociologists, they're actually nothing but rascals. Only Prabhupada can write something like that. And then some people, without knowing Prabhupada's position, when they read this, they say, how can such a big Acharya call great economists, politicians as rascals? Well, Prabhupada says, this, I didn't say that. This is said by Krishna. As therefore, they have been described as Mudas and Naradhams in Bhagavad Gita. He said, Krishna said that. So I'm just repeating his words. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. And Krishna calls them Muda, Namam Dushkritino, Muda, grossly foolish. And Muda means rascals. Due to their foolishness, all these materialists are described in Bhagavad Gita as Naradhams. Narada means lowest of the mankind. They have attained the human form in order to get released from material bondage. But instead of so, they become further embarrassed and amid the miserable material conditions. Therefore, they are Naradhams, the lowest of men. One may ask whether scientists, philosophers, economists, and mathematicians are also Naradhams, the lowest of men. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead replies that they are because they have no actual knowledge. They're simply proud of their false prestige and position. Actually, they do not know how to get relief from the material condition and renovate the spiritual life of transcendental bliss and knowledge. Consequently, they waste time and energy in the search of so-called happiness. These are the qualifications of the demons. In Bhagavad Gita, it says that when one has all these demoniac qualities, he becomes a Muda. Due to this, he envies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, birth after birth, he is born into a demoniac family, and he transmigrates from one demoniac body to another. Thus, he forgets his relationship with Krishna and remains a Naradham in an abominable condition, life after life. Wow. Heavy purport, heavy purport. And he's calling, Prabhupada is calling. Prabhupada says, Krishna is saying that, so whatever. He is calling scientists, philosophers, economics, mathematicians, politicians, everybody, they're fools and rascals. Of course, we cannot go out and preach like that or say openly. Because first of all, our position is not the same as Prabhupada. We don't have that kind of purity. And then secondly, it will just bring, it can bring lots of politics against the movement if we do so. Of course, we have to take shelter of Krishna. We are not taking shelter of any of these, but still, for us to preach properly and at least make them well-wishers of the society, we have to take a very lenient path, a positive path. But once somebody comes to the right platform and understands whatever he or she has been doing so far is nothing but wastage of time and energy, then he understands I was a rascal. He definitely understands that. But Prabhupada can call them rascals. We can't. Text 28. Sometimes a conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. And this is going to happen today, trying to celebrate Valentine's Day, and all this nonsense will go on all over the world. Thus he loses his intelligence as well as knowledge of life's goal. At that time, no longer attempting spiritual cultivation, he becomes overly attached to his wife or girlfriend and tries to provide her with a suitable apartment. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of that home and captivated by the talks, glances, and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself in the dense darkness of material existence. When the conditioned soul is embraced by his beloved wife, he forgets everything about Krishna consciousness. The more he becomes attached to his wife, the more he becomes implicated in family life. One Bengali poet, Bankim Chandra, says that to the eyes of the lover, the beloved is always very beautiful, even though ugly. This attraction is called Deva Maya. The attraction between man and woman is a cause of bondage for both. Actually, both belong to the Para Prakriti, the superior energy of the Lord. But both are actually Prakriti, female. However, because both want to enjoy one another, they are sometimes described as Purusha, male. Actually, neither is Purusha, but both can be superficially described as Purusha. As soon as man and women are united, they become attached to home, earth, land, friendship, and money. In this way, they are both entrapped in material existence. The word bhujalata upaguda, meaning being embraced by beautiful arms which are compared to creepers, describes the way the conditioned soul is bound within this material world. The products of sex life, sons and daughters, certainly follow. This is the way of material existence. So it applies to both man and woman. It's not. Of course, the shloka says a conditioned soul becomes attracted, becomes eager to be embraced by a woman, but the same thing happens for women also. They become eager to be embraced by a man. And the whole entanglement then takes place. This attraction then becomes certified, authorized by marriage, and then followed by home and land and friendship and money and then the children and then so many things in the name of love. Of course, this is better than not having a certified or marital relationship. Uh, Nowadays, this live-in relationships are very popular. But the whole thing is because we want to be the enjoyers. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So we have the same tendency. We means both men and women. We have the same tendency. The soul has the same tendency to enjoy. But the way Krishna enjoys, we cannot enjoy. Krishna's love, he had trillions and trillions of gopis in Vrindavan, unlimited number of gopis. But his love for them was all spiritual. But when we see that love, because of our mentality, our consciousness is perverted, it's completely material. When we see that love, we say, oh, this is the same as the love between man and woman in this material world. It's not the same, not at all the same. It's just a perverted reflection of this, the topmost love of spiritual world. And a perverted reflection cannot give one happiness. It's just like I think Radha Prabhu posted that little quotation from His Grace Sankarshan Prabhu. If we get the reflection of an apple, we cannot eat that apple. We cannot satisfy our hunger by eating that reflection of the apple. It will not give us pleasure. So similarly, perverted reflection of anything spiritual, it cannot give us pleasure. And on top of it, it not only it gives us pain, on top of it, we have to deal with so many things that are mentioned in the previous verse. And then the material world is nothing but a place of misery, nothing but that. But then again, this verse, as Prabhupada opens up his purport with, saying the conditioned soul has to accept all these conditions. We are trying to become free from all these conditions. Of course, we are pretty much in this category of conditioned souls. We are not liberated yet. But since we are on the way, on the path, so some more rules and regulations and restrictions are there for devotees in making. So we follow that, and together, I mean, nothing wrong with being married. It's a grihastha ashram. Together, husband, wife, children, they can serve Krishna. They can make advancement. They can help each other growing spiritually. So then it becomes an ashram. Then it becomes a Vaikuntha atmosphere in the house. And it is very much possible. Text 28. Sometimes a conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified. Okay, now this we already covered. Text 29. The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is a wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Brahma's death, and it controls all activities. It's always revolving in the lives of the living entities, from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity, and thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it's a personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes a conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefatigable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of man-made God, unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion, and neither vultures, buzzards, crows, nor herons can save one from such an attack. One who takes shelter of unauthorized, man made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. Hmm. So this time weapon, it's it's very grinding. It's always moving, always making changes in the world, making everything temporary, making everything changeable, and nobody can stop that. Nobody. But still, we think we can change the situations, change the conditions, and that's what Prabhupada said. Then he takes shelters of all these different so-called gurus or gods like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows, but they cannot help when the lion is attacking. It is said, Harim vina mritim na taranti. No one can save himself from the cruel hands of death without being favored by Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Mame vye prapadyante. Whoever fully surrenders unto Krishna can be saved from the cruel hands of material nature. The conditioned soul, however, sometimes wants to take shelter of a demigod, man-made god, pseudo-incarnation, or bogus Swami Yogi. All these cheaters claim to follow religious principles, and all this has become very popular in this age of Kali. There are many Pashandis who, without referring to the Shastras, pose themselves as incarnations, and foolish people follow them. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has left behind him Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Not referring to these authorized scriptures, rascals take shelter of man-made scriptures and try to compete with Lord Krishna. That is the greatest difficulty one encounters when trying to promote spiritual consciousness in human society. The Krishna consciousness movement is trying its best to bring people back to Krishna consciousness in its pure form, but the Pashandis and atheists who are cheaters are so numerous that sometimes we become perplexed and wonder how to push this movement forward. In any case, we cannot accept the unauthorized ways of so-called incarnations, gods, cheaters, and bluffers who are described here as crows, vultures, buzzards, and herons. Wow. So many scriptures, so-called religious books are there which have no authority actually. And Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. I mean, there are so many so-called gods and godmen and the swamis and the yogis and the leaders, spiritual leaders and religious leaders. So many of them are there. And people follow them, and they have such a huge following, huge following. But in the end, nothing. Neither they are going anywhere, neither their followers, nor their followers. Text 30. The pseudo swamis, yogis, and incarnations who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are known as Pashandis. They themselves have fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement. And whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in this turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, Brahmins, or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Vedic rituals. However, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Shudras, who are very expert in making arrangement for sex indulgence. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and such people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys. I mean, this is in the shloka. This is not Prabhupada's purport. This is what Jad Bharat is saying. So whatever he's saying is actually fitting to this Kali Yuga or to every Kali Yuga. And this is exactly what is happening. By fulfilling the process of evolution from the aquatics to the animal platform, a living entity eventually reaches the human form. The three modes of material nature are always working in the evolutionary process. Those who come to the human form through the quality of Sattva-guna were cows in the last animal incarnation. So here Prabhupada is giving this information. So the animals, cows, lions, and monkeys, their next life is human life. So Darwin was not completely wrong. He had some knowledge somehow, but he only referred to monkeys. And also he did not refer to the soul. He only referred to the change or evolution of the body. So that's where he made a mistake. But if he had studied the scriptures properly, Vedic scriptures, he could have come up with the right theory. Anyway, so those who come to the human form through the quality of Sattva-guna were cows in the last animal incarnation. So human form, human beings can also take the form of human beings, but animals can also. Those who come to the human form through the quality of Rajogun or passion were lions in the last animal incarnation. And those who come to the human form through the quality of Tamogun were monkeys in the last animal incarnation. In this age, those who come through the monkey species considered by modern anthropologists like Darwin to be descendants of monkeys. We receive information herein that those who are simply interested in sex are actually no better than monkeys. Monkeys are very expert in sexual enjoyment, and sometimes sex glands are taken from monkeys and placed in the human body so that a human being can enjoy sex in old age. In this way, modern civilization has advanced. So, what kind of advancement is that? We want to enjoy like monkeys, which we were in the previous life, but still the tendency is there. And so next life, what is going to happen? We'll become monkeys. Many monkeys in India were caught and sent to Europe so that their sex glands could serve as replacements for those of old people. Those who actually descend from the monkeys are interested in expanding their aristocratic families through sex. In the Vedas, there are also certain ceremonies especially meant for sexual improvement and promotion to higher planetary systems, where the demigods are enjoying sex. The demigods are also very much inclined towards sex because that is a basic principle of material enjoyment. So higher planetary systems where the demigods are enjoying sex. So yes, they can or they are fine, but when we go to Swargaloka, we are not going to become demigods. We are just going to be the citizens of Swargaloka. But this is the main activity on Swargaloka. Higher, very high form of sense gratification. That's all. First of all, the conditioned soul is treated by so-called swamis and yogis and incarnations when he approaches them to be relieved of material miseries. When the conditioned soul is not satisfied with them, he comes to devotees and pure Brahmins who try to elevate him for final liberation from material bondage. However, the unscrupulous means careless, conditioned soul cannot rigidly follow the principles prohibiting illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Thus he falls down and takes shelter of people who are like monkeys. In the Krishna consciousness movement, these monkey disciples, being unable to follow the strict regulative principles, sometimes fall down and try to form societies based on sex. This is proof that such people are descendants of monkeys, as confirmed by Darwin. In this verse, it is therefore clearly stated, Yatha Vanar Jate. Hmm. So this is what Jad Bharat is saying. Maharaj Rahuga, no? So Yatha Vanar Jate, just like monkeys. So Prabhupada actually he connected with Darwin's theory, but maybe whenever Jad Bharat was there, which was not exactly this Kali Yuga, some other Kali Yuga, so still some other scientists must be there who must have compared all this monkey business to human forms. but what Prabhupada is referring to is this monkey business has to stop. And he also mentioned, I think some other purport we read that, where he said that all these swamis or Brajvasis were so attached to sex life, even while living in dham, and they commit offenses or aparad, then they have to take the form of monkeys next life. Of course, they are still living in dham, but one life they have to live as monkeys, and so they can get the punishment taken care of. So, following life, they go back home, back to Godhead. So even to be born in Braj as monkey or hog or some other species, it is still so beneficial. It's not the perfect way, but it is still beneficial because whole days whenever we go for Govardhan Parikrama, we see all the monkeys over there, and whole day they're rolling in the dust of Braj. And that is the way to attain Krishna Prema. Of course, maybe they know that, or maybe they don't know, but either way, they are rolling in the dust of Braj, and the dust of Braj Raj will remove their Rajaguna. That's how powerful Braj Raj is. Because it is said, since Krishna left, he unmanifested his pastimes and he went back to Golok Vrindavan. Only 3 things who were originally with Krishna, he left them behind. So one is Giriraj Govardhan, second is Yamunaji, and third is Brajraj. So all these 3 are originally from Krishna's time. They're very, very powerful. And when this 10,000 years that are blessed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when this ends, the golden time, then they also will go back. Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan, Yamuna, Ganga, Brajraj, all these wonderful places, they will go back to Golok Vrindavan. Text 31. In this way, the descendants of monkeys intermingle with each other, and they're generally known as Shudras. Without hesitating, they live and move freely, not knowing the goal of life. They are captivated simply by seeing the faces of one another, which remind them of sense gratification. They are always engaged in material activities known as grame karma, and they work hard for material benefit. Thus, they forget completely that one day their small lifespans will be finished and they will be degraded in the evolutionary cycle. Materialistic people are sometimes called Shudras or descendants of monkeys due to their monkey like intelligence. They do not care to know how the evolutionary process is taking place, nor are they eager to know what will happen after they finish their small human lifespan. This is the attitude of Shudras. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, this Krishna consciousness movement, is trying to elevate Shudras to the Brahman platform so that they will know the real goal of life. So Shudras are not just a caste wise, somebody is Shudra. Shudra is if they have this monkey like intelligence, those who don't care for the scriptural knowledge and how to attain the goal of life, they are Shudras. And Prabhupada says this Krishna consciousness movement is trying to elevate Shudras to the Brahman platform. So it is very much possible if we follow the instructions, follow the rules, Shudras can become Brahmins. Forget about Shudras, even lower than Shudras, who don't follow any Varnashram system or rules of the Vedic scriptures, even they can be elevated to the Brahman platform. So many examples in this ISKCON movement. Not just Brahman, Prabhupada made them Vaishnavas. Prabhupada gave them sannyas. Go and preach all over the world, make disciples. They're writing books, they're reading scriptures, writing books. So much of knowledge is there that I never even heard of. All the scriptures that all these devotees are reading and writing their commentaries on. Unfortunately, being overly attached to sense gratification, materialists are not serious in helping this movement. Instead, some of them try to suppress it. Thus, it is a business of monkeys to disturb the activities of the Brahmins. The descendants of monkeys completely forget that they have to die. And they're very proud of scientific knowledge and the progress of material civilization. The word Gramya Karmana indicates activities meant only for the improvement of bodily comforts. Presently, all human societies engaged in improving economic conditions and bodily comforts. People are not interested in knowing what is going to happen after death, nor do they believe in the transmigration of the soul. When one scientifically studies the evolutionary theory, one can understand that human life is a junction where one may take the path of promotion or degradation. So either he can go up or go down. But if we just take this human life and the economic condition just to make the material life more comfortable, better, then that is also compared to only monkey business. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to ancestors, and those who worship me, Krishna says, will live with me. In this life, we have to prepare ourselves for promotion to the next life. Those who are in the mode of Rajaguna are generally interested in being promoted to the heavenly planets. Some unknowingly are degraded to lower animal forms. Those in the mode of goodness can engage in devotional service, and after they can return home back to Godhead. That is the real purpose of human life. This Krishna consciousness movement is trying to bring intelligent human beings to the platform of devotional service. Instead of wasting time trying to attain a better position in material life, one should simply endeavor to return home back to Godhead. Then all problems will be solved. So instead of making so much of endeavors, instead of wasting time, and it's not easy, not at all easy to live comfortably in the material life. It's very difficult. One has to work hard to make so much of money, to have a comfortable house and car and family life and deal with the relatives and go through so many ceremonies and this and that. One needs lots of money. And to make money, one needs to spend so much of time, job, business, and to keep that money from being uh, taken away by cheaters or by government or whatever. It takes lots of effort. How much effort does it take for one to make advancement on the path of bhakti? Not a whole lot. So we are working hard to basically go to hell. We can put in less effort and we can go back to spiritual world. We don't need a very big house or very luxurious car or this or that to be a devotee, to lead a devotional life. Simple life one can lead and spend the rest of the time or most of the time in the service of the Lord, chanting, reading, hearing, serving the Lord. And first of all, it will give satisfaction to the soul, satisfaction to the self. And then one stays away from keeping up with sharmas and varmas, with the neighbors and with the relatives. And when a devotee, when a family is in devotional life, when they are living so simply, then the relatives also don't bother them actually. After a while, they also give up. They don't want to have anything to do with these guys because devotees, they don't respond to whatever the relatives want, not to those parties or get-togethers or this or that. So a simple life, one can lead a very simple life and make progress. Very easily, one can make progress. So it's just a game of the mind when the mind says, no, 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 you have to make your relatives happy, make your friend circle happy, make your society happy. Rather just make Krishna happy. And this is what problem. Then all problems will be solved. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotees, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Vidhunoti suhrit satam. So he just cleanses his heart. One simply has to follow the regulative principles, act like a Brahman, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, one purifies himself of the baser material modes, tamoguna and rajoguna, and becoming freed from the greed of these modes, one can attain complete peace of mind. In this way, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and one's relationship with Him, and thus be promoted to the highest perfection. So this is actually the goal of life, and this is how we can attain that goal of life. Text 32. Just as a monkey jumps from one to another, the conditioned soul jumps from one body to another. As the monkey is ultimately captured by the hunter and is unable to get out of the captivity, the conditioned soul, being captivated by momentary sex pleasure, becomes attached to different types of bodies and is encased in family life. Family life affords the conditioned soul a festival of momentary sex pleasure and thus he is completely unable to get out of the material clutches. Festival of momentary sex pleasure. That's something new. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, Vishya Khalu Sarvata Syat. Bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are all very easily available in any form of life. It is stated here that the Vanar monkey is very much attracted to sex. Each monkey keeps at least 24 wives. Wow, I didn't know that. And he jumps from one tree to another to capture the female monkeys. Thus, he immediately engages in sexual intercourse. In this way, the monkey's business is to jump from one tree to another and enjoy sex with his wives. I'm sure they don't have a marriage ceremony in monkeys, so this wives is just some arrangement between male and these female monkeys. The conditioned soul is doing the same thing, transmigrating from one body to another and engaging in sex. He thus completely forgets how to become free from the clutches of material engagement. Sometimes a monkey is captured by a hunter who sells its body to doctors so that its glands can be removed for the benefit of another monkey. Means another human being, but he's also acting like a monkey. All this is going on in the name of economic development and improved sex life. And the doctor, hunter, doctor's assistants, and the person who gets all these sex glands transplant, so what they did, they just made this monkey a eunuch. So he cannot perform his monkey business. But the intention is still there in the monkey. The desire not gone. So next life, or maybe whenever they are all this team of doctors and whoever, when they are ready for their punishments, they will be made eunuchs. Because they perform this surgery on this monkey unnecessarily. So karmic cycle, nobody knows which karma we're going to suffer for, when, where, how, nobody knows. Only Krishna is keeping those, not even Krishna. Yamraj and Chitragupta and all his team, they are keeping track of everything. Text 33. In this material world, when the conditioned soul forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not care for Krishna consciousness, he simply engages in different types of mischievous and sinful activities. He is then subjected to the threefold miseries, and out of fear of the elephant of death, he falls into the darkness found in a mountain cave. Everyone is afraid of death. And however strong a materialistic person may be, when there is disease and old age, one must certainly accept death's notice. The conditioned soul becomes very morose to receive notice of death. His fear is compared to the fear experienced upon entering a dark mountain cave, and death is compared to a great elephant. And in a dark cave, if death like elephant or elephant of death is entering and the person is inside, there's nowhere he can run, he can escape. There's no way. The elephant means he's going to cover the whole cave, and that's it. So that's why it's very, very, for a conditioned soul, it's very fearful. to die. Text 34. The conditioned soul suffers many miserable body conditions, such as being affected by severe cold and strong winds. He also suffers due to the activities of other living beings and due to natural disturbances. When he is unable to counteract them and has to remain in a miserable condition, he naturally becomes very morose because he wants to enjoy material facilities. And because of all these problems, last full year, we were inside our homes, couldn't do whatever we wanted to, whether it is children or youngsters or adults or old people, very miserable to be stuck inside the house. And on top of it, we don't know who's going to die, who's going to get infected. And those who died in the hospital because of coronavirus, we have seen the videos, and maybe some of us have experience of one of our relatives and friends who died, couldn't even take care of them, couldn't even be with them when they died, and their body is just cremated without our presence. And we want to enjoy material facilities. All of us want to enjoy. But Krishna's arrangements, and recently this flooding in Uttarakhand, and then there was this earthquake, and so many things all over the world are going on. And they will continue to go on. But we are such a class of people, we forget the world suffered and again take up the same lifestyle again. Sometimes conditioned soul exchange money, but in due course of time, enmity arises because of cheating. Although there may be a tiny profit, the conditioned souls cease to be friends and become enemies. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the monkey-like conditioned soul first becomes attached to sex, and when intercourse actually takes place, he becomes more attached. He then requires some material comforts, apartment, house, food, friends, wealth, and so on. In order to acquire these things, he has to cheat others, and this creates enmity, even among the most intimate friends. Sometimes this enmity is created between the conditioned soul and the father or spiritual master. Unless one is firmly fixed in the regulative principles, one may perform mischievous acts, even if one is a member of the Krishna consciousness movement. We therefore advise our disciples to strictly follow the regulative principles. Otherwise, the most important movement for the upliftment of humanity will be hampered due to dissension among its members. Those who are serious about pushing forward this movement should remember this and strictly follow the regulative principles so that their minds will not be disturbed. So important to follow these principles, what Prabhupada has said. And this cheating because of money is so common, so common. Text 36. Sometimes having no money, the conditioned soul does not get sufficient accommodations. Sometimes he doesn't even have a place to sit, nor does he have the other necessities. In other words, he falls into scarcity, and at that time, when he is unable to secure the necessities by fair means, he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. When he cannot get the things he wants, he simply receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose. It is said that necessity knows no law. When the conditioned soul needs money to acquire life's bare necessities, he adopts any means. He begs, borrows, or steals. Instead of receiving these things, he is insulted and chastised. Unless one is very well organized, one cannot accumulate riches by unfair means. So, even to organize riches by unfair means, one has to be very well organized. Even if one acquires riches by unfair means, he cannot avoid punishment and insult from the government or the general populace. There are many instances of important peoples embezzling money, getting caught, and being put in prison. But these days, people don't even care if they're put in prison. In fact, they become more popular when they come out of the prison. One may be able to avoid the punishment of prison, but one cannot avoid the punishment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who works through the agency of material nature. This is described in Bhagavad Gita, Devi Esha Gunamai. Nature is very cruel. She does not excuse anyone. When people do not care for nature, they commit all kinds of sinful activities, and consequently, they have to suffer, cannot run away. Text 37. Although people may be enemies, in order to fulfill their desires again and again, they sometimes get married. Unfortunately, these marriages do not last very long, and the people involved are separated again by divorce or other means. As stated previously, every conditioned soul has a propensity to cheat, even in marriage. Everywhere in this material world, one conditioned soul is envious of another. For the time being, people may remain friends, but eventually they become enemies again and fight over money. Sometimes they marry and then separate by divorce or other means. On the whole, unity is never permanent. Due to the cheating propensity, both parties always remain envious. Even in Krishna consciousness, separation and enmity take place due to the prominence of material propensities. So even in Krishna consciousness, because our material propensities are still there, very much there, and the enmity, separation, everything is happening. And this is a forest of material world where everybody is suffering. Every single living entity is suffering. Nobody is happy, and nobody can be happy until we come to the spiritual platform, take up the spiritual process, the activities. Otherwise, this material world is again there for us to get into, just like Prabhupada said, monkeys are jumping from one branch to another, one tree to another. We will also be jumping from one species to another species, thinking that branch will give us happiness or the other tree will give us happiness. Not gonna happen. So anyway, I'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mata.
Prabhuji, taken up today, Prabhuji.
That's why this is Srimad Bhagavatam.
Seriously.
Not an ordinary scripture.
Hmm.
And no other scripture speaks so heavily about this.
Prabhuji, yesterday only, red light पे मेरे को unique you know, just आजकल ये हो क्या है फैशन, वो रेड लाइट्स पे ना they ask money। और कल ही शाम को मेरे को एक थॉट आया था, ऐसे लिए क्या कर्म इन्होंने किए होंगे कि दे गॉट दिस, यू नो, उनको इस तरह का बॉडी मिला है। दे आर नॉट इन नॉर्मल सोसाइटी में रह ही नहीं सकते हैं, और वो ये कंडीशन है कि रेड लाइट पे खड़े होकर के दे आस्किंग मनी, तो दे आर इन अ ह्यूमन बॉडी। टुडे आई जस्ट गॉट द आंसर कि कैसे, यू नो, द नेक्स्ट लाइफ मिलती है।
हरी बोल।
Yep. And you won't, it's hard to believe, but in America also we find people begging on the streets.
सीरियसली प्रभु जी।
Not the same way as in India, not in the same numbers, but still we find. It's
In America also
very,
it's eunuchs, Prabhu.
yeah, people are there, beggars,
Are they eunuchs?
eunuchs. No, I mean, I won't know of, because they're not so prominent as in India or Pakistan, that country, that place. But the beggars are there.
Yeah, that I have seen in England also. On the streets they see it. They don't look like beggars, but people are coming and
Yeah,
giving
they
something.
don't. Yeah, they don't. They'll have a nice sign and wearing jeans, t-shirt, those kind of clothes. Like not like like no clothes or something like that, but they would be beggars. They would be asking for help.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, we heard about the Varnashram. So, how to follow that practically after, say, Grihastha? Almost all of our are in Grihastha ashram right now. So, what next?
More will be discussed in the 7th canto, but basically Grihastha ashram should be dovetailed towards service of Krishna. So together, husband, wife, children, make a schedule so how they can together serve Krishna, and seeing each other as a servant, as a devotee of Krishna, not as person for exploitation. So if husband is working, has a job, and wife is a homemaker, and she's taking care of the household, children, family, everybody. So it's not like she should be exploited. And same way, man also should not be exploited by everybody. And together they can have a small temple at home and worship the deity together, chant, offer a food to Krishna, and have some kirtan, some reading of scriptures together. So that will make the atmosphere very congenial, very spiritual, very uplifting at home. And these are just some of the points I'm trying to make.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Thank you.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। प्रभु जी, इस चीज पे मुझे हमेशा जब भी मैं देखती हूँ, मतलब मैं सुन जब भी हम लोग ये सोचते हैं कि हम गृहस्थ लोग कैसे ये करें, तो अभी तो जैसे हम शंकर भगवान, पार्वती जी, ये लोग तो पहले गृहस्थ है ना, पहले गृहस्थ वैष्णव, ऐसा ये मानना सही है क्या? क्योंकि वो लोग भी एज ए पूरी फैमिली, दे ऑल आर डिवोटेड टू वर्किंग फॉर कृष्णा। सो एटलीस्ट अगर मतलब अभी मैं कुछ दिनों से ये समझ रही हूँ कि अगर हम शंकर भगवान, पार्वती जी और गणेश भगवान को देखते हैं, तो हम ये समझ सकते हैं कि ये लोग भी वैष्णव है, ये लोग भी कृष्ण भगवान के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। तो इनसे हम अगर कुछ ब्लेसिंग्स ले सकते हैं, तो ये कि हम भी एज अ गृहस्थ इनके तरह पूरा फैमिली मिलके कृष्ण भगवान का पूजा करें। और कृष्ण भगवान को उनका भजन कर सके। तो ये सोचना सही है क्या?
Yes, they are Vaishnavas, Shivji and Parvati and the family, but they're also demigods. So when we worship them, we tend to get into that mood of worshiping demigods and asking for material benefits. We tend to. Not everybody maybe, but we tend to. So that's where the danger is. And at the same time, yes, they are Vaishnavas, but they are very, very exalted. So their services, their duties towards Krishna are very different from our duties. So we cannot imitate them either. But we can beg them for that mood of service. That's not a problem. Even Hanumanji, such a wonderful devotee of Lord Ram, we can beg him to give us that mood of service that he has. So in that way, yes, we can worship.
Yes, Prabhuji. So when we come across people worshipping different gods, so any which ways when they are demigods, so they are much exalted Vaishnava than what we are. We are just, as for me, if I say, I'm just learning the process. So I take, whenever I come across people worshipping them, I I take it like this, that okay, I will not ask, I don't need any material benediction from them. But if I am supposed to respect them, then I will respect them, and I can uh, think like this, that okay, they are also uh, helping Krishna to take care of this universe. So uh, we should pray for them, that the way they are doing their service, whatever we can be engaged in our service at our level, and with our family, with our friends, with everyone we know, so it will be good for us. So that is what is means. I was just thinking that if it is a right mode, because sometimes people worship Sai Baba also, then I think that okay, I should not disrespect them. People do lots of here in Patna. I'm seeing people are building big house temples here, doing Thursday, as in Thursday, which was supposed to be a Vishnu or a Krishna's day. Now it has turned up to Sai Baba day. तो अभी यहाँ पे लोग उनके नाम पे पूजा पाठ करते हैं। ये तो मैं अभी अगर उनको ये नहीं समझा पाती हूँ कि भाई देखो, भगवान जी तो ये है नहीं, ठीक है, बहुत बड़े साधु थे जिनके पास उन्होंने भी यही सिखाया कि भाई आदमी को अच्छे एक दूसरे से सौहार्द में रहना चाहिए, तो उनका अलग फेज था। बट अभी के टाइम पे आप उनको इस तरह से वर्शिप कर रहे, इतना अगर कृष्ण भगवान का वर्शिप करो तो ठीक रहेगा। तो वो समझ में नहीं आता कि क्या करे, पर फिर लगता है चलो ठीक है, जो भी है ये लोग एटलीस्ट हमसे तो ऊपर ही है, भगवान का ही कुछ हेल्प किया होगा। आफ्टर ऑल वट एवर दे हैव डन, इट वाज आल्सो कृष्णाज विश। तो ये समझना, ये सब जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग मेरे दिमाग में है, वो सही है कि नहीं, क्योंकि फिर हम उसी मुताबिक लोगों को बताते हैं, या हम उसी मुताबिक अपने आप को ढाल लेते हैं, जिससे कि कुछ लोग फिर आपको फॉलो कर सकते हैं या नहीं करेंगे, जो भी है।
So the best way to do that, yes, your understanding is correct, but how to engage them is, I'm not going to take the name, but there is a devotee in this group also, and he's initiated now, but he was a big Sai Baba devotee. And somehow he came in our group, and I never told him not to worship Sai Baba. I said, just chant Hare Krishna also, that's all. Just add Krishna. We're not saying don't do this. We're saying just do this, add it. And slowly, he just changed. If he's going to say himself, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to take his name. He's a wonderful devotee, wonderful, very nice, very service attitude. So this is what we do. We don't try to tell, don't do this, don't do that. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter. We say, just add Krishna. Okay, you do 24 hours. 24 hours you do Sai Baba, Shivji, Bhajan, whatever. Just give 5 minutes to Krishna. And they'll be happy to do that. And then Krishna will take care of rest. Who are we?
यस प्रभु जी, सो समवेयर हम लोग भी अभी मतलब पहले तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हम लोग एकदम अचानक से मैं खुद कृष्ण भगवान का पूजा कर रही हूँ। पहले मतलब मैं भी बहुत साईं बाबा शिरडी हमारे यहाँ से नजदीक था पुणे से, तो हम लोग भी बहुत शिरडी जाते थे। बट ग्रेजुअली नाउ अभी हम लोगों को समझ में आता है आप लोगों की वजह से कि नहीं, मतलब हमको डिफरेंस करना भी आना चाहिए कि क्या है। तो उसकी वजह से हम थोड़ा-सा उस चीज़ को समझ पाते हैं। तो मुझे भी वही लगता है कि चलो ठीक है, इनको भी भगवान जब मत देंगे तो समझ लेंगे इनको। तो फिर हम लोग अपना भी उनको वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड मोर। लाइक अभी अगर भगवत गीता उनको दिया तो उनको लगता है कि भगवत गीता ही क्यों, ये क्यों, ऐसा क्यों? तो फिर उन मतलब फिर लगता है कि अरे अभी
So
तो हम लोग
don't
ये
say
कर
don't say only Bhagavad Gita. Say you do whatever you're doing now. Who's stopping you? Yeah, continue with that and do it nicely.
हाँ,
But add Krishna also. That's all. Just tell them to
प्रभु जी
add
मैं उनको बस
Krishna.
ये प्रभु जी मैं उनको सिर्फ बोलती हूँ कि आप पढ़ लो, आप एक बार पढ़ो तो सही। आप उसको मतलब कुछ करना नहीं है, आप पढ़ो एक बार, एज ए बुक तो खोलो। स्क्रिप्चर्स तो आपको बाद में वो फीलिंग आएगी कि एक कितना बड़ा ग्रंथ है, कितनी बड़ी चीज है इसमें लिखी हुई। बट आप एक बार पढ़ना तो स्टार्ट करो बुक की तरह। तो मैं उनको मतलब उनके पूजा पाठ में किसी को नहीं इंटरप्ट करती हूँ। तो वही मुझे लगता था क्या मुझे ऐसा करना चाहिए, मुझे इतना ज्यादा नहीं मतलब उनको स्ट्रिक्टली मना करना चाहिए या नहीं। थैंक यू सो मच, आप बहुत अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन करते हैं कि हमें कैसे लोगों के साथ डील करना चाहिए, जो कि एक्चुअली बहुत प्रैक्टिकल है प्रभु जी। अदरवाइज नहीं तो हम सिर्फ डिवोटी नहीं एनिमी ही बना लेंगे।
Well, actually, this is what I follow. I mean, there are other devotees in the movement also. They're very heavy, but I just can't follow that. That's all.
हरिबो
हरि बोल। प्रभु जी मुझे लगता है मैं ही खुद अभी इतनी न्योफाइट डिवोटी भी नहीं हूँ, तो मैं क्या लोगों को इतना प्रवचन दे पाऊँ कि उनको समझा पाऊँ। वो खुद मेरे से अगर कुछ पूछते हैं तो मैं बोलती हूँ मैं ऐसे करती हूँ, और आगे मैं कुछ ऐड नहीं कर पाती कि क्या करना है नहीं करना है।
That's what we do. No, see, it's very difficult for somebody to pick up Bhagavad Gita and start reading. Very, very difficult in the beginning. Give them prasadam. Give them something else. Give them a CD of Kirtan. Something like that. Let Harinam go in. Philosophy will come much later. But again, it varies from person to person, whoever you're talking to. And Bhagavad Gita is pretty big, so you can give small books. There's so many small books.
प्रभु जी मंथली बुक भी तो आती है भगवत दर्शन।
Yeah, Bhagavad Darshan.
That also
Yes,
that also helps.
Back to
actually.
Godhead. Yeah.
Back to Godhead. That's also help.
Yep. So there are so many ways, so many ways.
Yes, Mataji, back to God.
Good job, Anima Mataji. Keep doing it.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'm struggling with my own.
I'm also trying.
Rounds not completing 16. So how come I?
I'm also trying to speak to them about Krishna.
कुछ भटक भटक
दो बार सुनते हैं, तीसरी बार मुझे अवॉइड कर देते हैं, तो कोई बात नहीं।
कोई नहीं, लगे रहें बस, that's all. Keep on doing it. Keep on doing it.
Yes, Prabhuji, we're trying.
Okay,
Krishna,
everybody.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
You all have a
Thank you
safe
very
and
much.
wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
जय श्री
Thank you.
प्रभु
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.